So I had a couple questions that came through about the cases that me and my godson's going through. The biggest thing we want to talk about now is how for the third, fourth, or even the fifth time, we filed a misconduct claim against an attorney on a high-profile case. In this case, the allegations against attorney, and her name is Lise Fisher Park. She started out with our case, I want to say in 2012, and right out of the gate, she misrepresented the facts about the case. When given an opportunity, she didn't fix it. And that particular order that came out of that was obtained by fraud. That particular case or that order was used for everything we are dealing with up to the day. So we filed a complaint over the years about that. And because that went unchecked, those actions, and the judges didn't check them and put them in the right place in terms of the law, these things led up to illegal liens on my property. You heard me, a property. Something that had nothing to do with the case, but they wanted to teach me a lesson or bully me. And in this regard, that's exactly what was done because I was unaware of it. I had not been served. And the situation just turned into what I consider a mess because fraud is expensive. It takes a lot to chase after lies and to try to bombard them. In our case, we shouldn't have had to do that. The upper court, instead of them not looking at the fraud and putting those fraudulent orders aside, they decided to go on the side of the defendant and shield that person as opposed to following the law. That's what we believe. And we're going to let it all play out the way it's supposed to play out because it's already really has. But at the end of the day, I got some questions that came in. And I wanted people to know, as I said before, over and over again, that we did put in the misconduct information about what happened from the very beginning. The fraud from the beginning is what we call it. And because that fraud went unchecked or not resolved correctly by the courts, because no due process took place, nothing in terms of procedure, the procedures were not followed. And the judges basically closed their eyes or covered their eyes. The fraud and the fraud upon the court led to liens that were done in 2023. Well, the liens might have been before that. I became aware of the liens in 2023. Illegal or checks were given to the defendants in 2024. And those defendants cashed those checks knowing that the underlying issue was fraud, that they lied to get the order. And that's why they won't do the due process. And that's why they won't let an evidentiary hearing, a discovery. They don't want none of that. They don't want the truth. So here we have that fraud in the court. I told you all before on another video, there were no gag orders. A gag order basically says you can't talk about a case. But we never went to trial. We never did discovery. So the order that we have received that was out of the illegal actions, which is really no good, was a seal order that was directed to the clerk of the court that said the public could not come to the court and get the records and that the records would be sealed from the public on the electronic system. It made no mention about the parties at all. Nonetheless, because of my godson being a minor, we family thought it was apropos to protect him. Nonetheless, there was no gag order that took place, and the gag order that people are talking about don't exist. And as I said, a gag order is basically something where you don't talk about a particular thing or a case, etc. And that's normally done when you have a jury and when something's about to happen legally, and that the judge asks you to do that and they put it in writing. They tell you exactly what you need to do. So that order that we received was only a sealed order of the records. Each party owns their own records. Each party is a stakeholder of their own party, of their own records. They can do what they want with their records. That's a fact, everybody. So we'll find that in some regards, not all. And if this was a real legitimate case, and it's not, because those orders were obtained by fraud, but if it was a real legitimate one, then you would white out the minor's name. That's it. That's all that needs to do if you were to share it. And in this case, that would be my godson, who is now an adult. So the attorney, as we talked about earlier, for this particular case with the misconduct, that's the email I received. The email I received talked about what were some of the charges. Now, I know those charges from even from before are online because different parties receive different things in regard to this. And as a result, they posted it and talked about it and all this stuff. So the thing involving the allegations involving Lise Fisher Hart, the attorney, she was originally the attorney that started the fraud. And then she became a witness when she was being sued for the damages that she caused. So she has two hats that she's wearing. Nonetheless, they're all different types of canons, if you will, for misconduct in regard to that. That's under investigation now. It has the old stuff, which you all have out there already on the internet, supposedly or bloggers. You already have misconduct, blah, 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 the allegations with that. And then you have the new stuff where that came out of the illegal liens. Because of the fraud and the fraud in the court, or the fraud from the defendant and his attorney, was not dealt with by the court, meaning there was no due process, no evidentiary hearing, no discovery. And when it was asked for, because the allegation that they made about me and my godson violating an order was false, it never occurred. And there was never no evidence, because we never did, and no evidence, we never did no evidentiary hearing. Nonetheless, because it was high profile, according to them, they wanted to teach us a lesson or to show us not to do something. You can't show somebody to do something that's not in the law. If it's not in the law, you can't show me. And at the end of the day, you can't conceal fraud. If somebody makes a fraudulent statement about anything, that particular case or that case is considered to be open, because you cannot seal fraud. That's a federal offense, and it's also offense in New Jersey where we were at the time. So here we have those different things going on. So I know the misconduct. The only added thing now is the things where the law firms and the defendants and their clients, I guess I'll say the attorneys, cashed the checks. So now they've opened themselves up to another set of problems, because you cashed a check where the underlying issue, is fraud. That's why the courts won't do what they're going to do. But just because somebody won't do what they're supposed to do doesn't mean it's not true. That's why we have a court system, to search and be in search of the law, to walk it out. And because they didn't walk it out, here we are today having all these discussions and problems. Now, people got their own opinion about a lot of stuff. People want to say different things because they don't know what happened. They always want to take the side of something they don't even know, and they never even ask you, never had a conversation with you, but they know everything. So at the end of the day, that's not good either. So we are going to follow the law. We're going to follow the facts wherever they lead us. And we're going to ask the system to do what it's supposed to do. And that's to make sure justice is served. But some of the things we've seen on a national level, I promise you, me and my godson have experienced on a local level. It's real. And this is why it's important to get out to vote. If you don't vote, you ain't heard. If you get the wrong person in there, you're going to have nothing but chaos, confusion, lies, corruption to a whole nother level. I'm telling you, as an African-American woman, as someone who's worked in the community, as a person has been in the community, my mother was a part of the community, it's important that we follow the right people. And maybe nobody's perfect, not even you. So what we do as people, brothers and sisters, if you will, neighbors, is we help one another. Nobody can solve any problems alone. We all got to work together in a community, and we all have to be respectful of those persons in the community, all of us, regardless of their beliefs and their ways of thinking, as long as it's not something that we know can hurt someone else. We're not going to be helping somebody who want to go into schools and shoot up people and say that's okay. It's not, right? So we know there is a balance to this. So nonetheless, I wanted to come on and give you a little something